Imagine being locked away in a prison so secure, so foolproof that no one has ever escaped. Now, what if I told you that a group of inmates, led by an architect of all people, decided to break out? Not by going over the walls, but by going under them? This is that story.
So put yourself in their shoes for a second. If you were trapped in a place like that, what would you do? I mean, the obvious stuff, climbing walls, rushing the gates, that's just a death sentence. You'd have to think way outside the box. Remember that, because we're about to meet the man who did just that.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Santiago's most secure prison. This place is famous for two things: its perfect escape-proof record and its absolutely ruthless warden. This guy ruled through pure terror. The tiniest mistake, the slightest infraction, you are in for a brutal beating.
So on one side, you have this force of pure brutality, the warden. And on the other, you have the calculated mind of Leon. See, Leon's an architect, and where the warden just saw unbreakable stone walls, Leon saw a blueprint, a puzzle just waiting to be solved. And you better believe he started working on that puzzle from day one.
Leon knew that trying to go over the walls was basically suicide. It's what they'd expect. So he came up with a plan that was so audacious, so out there, it was almost unthinkable. They wouldn't go over the walls. No, they would go under them.
He actually paced it out himself, from their cell, straight through the earth, to the forest just outside the prison walls. It was exactly 90 meters. That's almost the length of a football field. A football field they had to dig by hand, in total secret, right under the warden's nose. The challenge was set.
But, this was never going to be as simple as just start digging. Before they could even move a single pebble, Leon's plan slammed into two massive, and I mean massive, roadblocks that seemed totally impossible to get around.
First, the obvious one. How in the world do you hide a giant hole in your cell wall when the guards are doing meticulous, top-to-bottom inspections every single day? And second, a tunnel that long would create about 80 tons of soil. Where do you possibly hide a literal mountain of dirt inside a prison?
Leon's first solution was just genius. He figured out how to create a fake block of wall, a perfect removable plug. And look at the recipe. This just shows you how resourceful they were. They made it with stuff they found inside the prison: crushed rubble, lime, even eggs, all mixed into a paste to create a cover no one could detect.
And the 80 tons of dirt? Well, the answer to that problem came from a totally unexpected discovery. While he was working on that plug, Leon accidentally broke through the ceiling of his cell and found a huge forgotten attic space right above them, hidden in plain sight. It was the perfect dumping ground.
So, with the big logistical problem solved, they needed a warning system. And this is clever. One of Leon's guys was a guitarist. He'd sit out in the courtyard and play, creating a nice distraction. But he had a very specific riff, a secret tune that he'd only play when guards were on their way. It was their own personal alarm system. All right, so with those core problems out of the way, the real work finally began. The first small team of 5 guys dug and dug, day in and day out. But as the weeks turned into months, a new, soul-crushing crisis started to set in. The sheer, unbelievable scale of this thing.
After 70 grueling days of back-breaking work, they had only managed to dig 5 meters. 5! At that pace, Leon did the math, it would take them 5 years to get out. Their brilliant plan was failing. Hope was just draining away, fast.
And this is where you see real leadership. Leon knew they had to adapt, or it was all over. They couldn't do it alone. So they decided to take a huge risk and expand the operation. They started recruiting other inmates, focusing on the guys on death row, men who had absolutely nothing left to lose and a whole new life to gain.
And just like that, their little secret project exploded into this massive clandestine operation. I mean, look at this system. They had specialized roles for diggers, transporters hauling buckets of dirt up through the ceiling, and lookouts coordinating with a whole web of secret signals. It was an underground factory, humming along right under the guards' feet.
But of course, a longer tunnel just meant new problems. Pretty soon, a digger actually fainted from lack of oxygen. The solution? Pure prison yard barter. They traded a spot in the escape for a tiny motor, which they used to build a fan to pump in fresh air. Then, the next hurdle, external logistics. How do 50 men just disappear into the night? That's when they recruited Raphael's wife, Paulina, to arrange a getaway bus.
So, after 514 grueling days, think about that, over a year and a half, the tunnel was finally complete. The moment of truth was here. But you just knew it wouldn't be that easy. They had to face one last terrifying test.
Right as they were finalizing the escape plan, a massive earthquake shook the prison. The ground trembled so violently, and Leon's first thought was the tunnel. He risked everything, running back inside to check the damage, expecting the worst. Miraculously, their 500 days of work had held firm. On the night of the escape, the plan was simple. While the whole prison was distracted watching a movie, the 50 men would slip away. But as they started to leave, one by one, the warden's personal spy, an informant named Bigote, noticed the room was getting awfully empty, and he got suspicious.
Bigote followed them, and he discovered the tunnel entrance with just one prisoner left, a man named Oscar, who was supposed to be the last one in line. As Bigote turned to scream for the guards, Oscar tackled him. A brutal, desperate fight broke out. Bigote actually stabbed Oscar with a screwdriver, but Oscar fought through the pain, knocked the informant out cold, and saved the entire escape. But he was too badly wounded to make it into the tunnel himself.
And while all that chaos was happening, deep underground, dozens of men were crawling through that narrow, pitch-black passage. Every inch forward represented a day of secret labor, of constant fear, of impossible hope. They were almost there. And then a hand reaches down from the surface, and one by one, nearly 50 men are pulled out of the earth and into the cool night air. They quickly change their clothes, run to a waiting bus, and just like that, vanish into the darkness.
Polina was waiting for them on that bus. She handed each man a wallet. Inside was a fake ID and enough cash to get started. Everything they needed to just disappear and start over. After nearly 2 years of this unbelievable effort, they were free.
Just step back and think about what they accomplished. 50 men, a 90-meter tunnel, 80 tons of hidden soil, and a clean getaway from a supposedly impregnable fortress. It is an absolute masterclass in ingenuity, teamwork, and project management under the highest stakes you can possibly imagine. So I'll ask you again, was this the greatest jailbreak in history? You decide.